Okay, this is lesson 7 of Class Quiver. In lesson 7, our target is co-created norms. Co-created norms is getting a lot of buzz lately, and it was first introduced at my school in a in a manner that I thought was great. That you get students involved in how they want their class to be run, but then it dawned on me that I've got 5 different classes, and they're all going to have different norms. And how do you track all that? And then on top of that, do you just do it on day one and then we forget about it? So I've developed some tools that I think you will find very interesting if you are at all interested in co-created norms. So norms is obviously a new way of saying rules. Apparently, we don't want to say rules anymore. They're norms, and but at the same time, these are teenagers, they're children, and sometimes we need to document. And I was advised at a union meeting. We heard from um, representatives from the state level that advise teachers to document. You must document, document. So I've got this great way to do so with just the click of a mouse. It's not a stop in the middle of your teaching and go back and start, you know, um, documenting. It's simply, Danielle is once again on her cell phone when she shouldn't be. So I right click on her and that's it. You've just documented it. If I open up Danielle, you'll see that on this date, she electronics. She used electronics on that date. So I can also do it from up here. I can find Danielle here. This time, let's do Damien. And it's as simple as that. And if you want to run it that way and no one really has to know what's going on, you could do it on your own screen or you could do it on the projected screen I do. I let all my students know that I am tracking. So how do you decide what what to track? And that is all in what is called class norms. And so we have a utility called co-created norms to do that. And this is integrated. That's our first activity, the integrated implementation. This is integrated with your presentation tool out here with these icons right here with the right click on the students, etc. And what you could do with your class is you could bring up some pretty standard things, like for example, leaving the class. You see this icon over here. When it's green, what does that mean as opposed to when it's yellow or when it's red? So red means maybe, and I put some verbiage in here that you might like to start out with, but you and your class would change this to whatever you think is a good expectation. So, I just say that learning and returning can disrupt learning. Leaving and returning can disrupt the learning and should be minimized. Be sure to make good use of time between classes or wait for a break. So I also have break times established in my schedule. So hopefully the students can wait till then, but to leave the class. But what would it look like if it's yellow? All right. So, you know, uh, red exit, when would you have red? Like no leaving. Well, in our school, we have what's called the 10-minute rule. And so down here at the bottom, during the first and last 10 minutes of the class, we don't want students to leave. But of course, if they have an emergency, they can leave. And I've added this. If you want, you could prompt students for additional. You could prompt for additional information on the exit, like where are they going? Why? They're going to a certain, or what camera are they going to check out when they leave the classroom, so I know what they're going to return with. So you can ask that exit information. All right. So what does it mean when it's red? What does it mean when it's yellow? What does it mean when it's green? You and your class can customize this box. Same thing with cell phones. What does it mean when it's red? It means no cell phones, right? You're taking a quiz or something. Yellow, that means, to me, I call it responsible cell phone use, but you could say like only educational purposes or as long as It's not disrupting the learning or their learning, whatever you and your class want to come up with. And of course, remember what you can get, what you give them, you can take away, with momentarily just by clicking on the icon. It changes the icon. So same thing with food. Pretty easy. I just leave it on no food because of the pandemic. We shouldn't be eating or drinking in class. Talking one at a time, group talking. What do these things mean? What does it mean to be green? What does that mean? How about being prepared for class? I like to say that they should be ready. They should have their binders open or their books open, or if they have to have a calculator in your math class, whatever it is they need, their pencil, their paper, they're prepared for class. And if they're not, we can document that, track it. And then the last one is clean up. We need to make sure they leave their workspace clean, and obviously in science classes, after labs or shop classes, this is very important. So those are those standard ones that I think I built in. But we have others, and you can make these up. Some teachers just like to keep it real simple. Respect for others, respect for property, respect for learning, and be safe. So if they just had those four norms, but of course, that's all subject to interpretation, right? So that's why you and your class need to decide what does that mean exactly. I put a few starting words here for some of these. Maybe you don't want these at all. Maybe you want to add another one like, wear your mask. There's a pandemic, wear a mask. And you can describe what does it mean? How do you wear a mask? All that kind of stuff. Okay, now what happens? There are some options. What happens if a student gets documented 3 times in the same class period for cell phone use, or 4 times in a row in 1 hour? I mean, sometimes it just becomes excessive. The class norms are great. Tier 1 types of things you and your students can enforce to the best of your ability. But beyond that, you're going to need some help. And so the first thing that I do is I'll say I'm going to display a teachable moment box so that every time I do have to track, the teachable moment will come up displaying what it is that we put in this description to remind the students why this is one of our norms, from what it is that we expect of each other. So this is where it's ongoing, year long. Every day, these types of things might happen. Another thing I could do is if it is a cell phone or food, I could just say, no cell phone or no food for you for 1 day. So every time you get dinged, you add a day of where you can't have it at all, even if it's allowed, even if it's yellow or green. No cell phone for you, rather than punish the entire class and take it away from them. To remind you who those people are when cell phones are allowed, you could display a border around it. I'm just going to leave it at when allowed at the moment so you can see what it's going to look like. Another thing you could do is you can use point system. If you notice with each one of these, I say how many points you can deduct. So if a cell phone use during a time when you're not supposed to use a cell phone, maybe that's important to you. You could make it a point. And notice, by the way, this whole group, that's the same number of points. So they could lose the same number of points here and here. So it's going to be a 1 point deduct. But what I like to do to keep it positive is I'll check this box here. Every student is going to actually gain a point for every day that they're in attendance where they had nothing documented, nothing tracked for them. So by the end of the quarter, a student might get, 45 points just from that. Not to mention, gold stars or whenever they get selected by the computer randomly or or even when you select them manually, you could still track that. They'll get a point for participation. So there's lots and lots of ways to get points, but what about can you lose a point? And that's something that you as a teacher might decide to do, or you as a class, actually, because this is co-created. I don't know why I added this box, but if you want to make this one set of rules for all of your classes, you can, but that kind of defeats the purpose of co-created. So getting back to the point of, well, all right, what happens when a student gets dinged 3 times or whatever number you want to put here? Then a box will pop up that will prompt for an intervention. And you can choose what would be your intervention. It seems like invariably we call home. That could be your standard go-to intervention. Sometimes maybe it might require a conference. Maybe we could try a new seat. I don't know. I don't like this one, but additional assignments maybe extended food and cell bans, and maybe a timeout, or we'll try it again. You convinced me you're going to turn this around, so you get one more chance. What's cool about the custom intervention box is you can actually choose a random intervention as well, which is kind of fun. It's like spin the wheel. Let's see what happens. All right, so let's say that I've done this all with my class, and now I just click OK, and now you're ready to go. So now I'm going to see Danielle is not prepared for class. All right, hey class, here is our teachable moment box so that it reminds us of what it means to be not prepared for class. And it even tells you how many points you're going to lose for this. Of course, you're not going to get the point for showing up, with no documentation. But anyway, I could just say, all right, forget it. It's just a warning. And you didn't get dinged after all. Well, Victor is eating in class when he's not supposed to. So I think I'll do the food and drink. And here's our teachable moment once again. This time I'm going to click OK. Now, what happens when food is allowed? Okay. You and Victor will be reminded that he is not to have food, even though other students may, if that is an option you want to. Okay, remember you can always do it at a right click as well up here. And you can also always toggle manually, and that would override anything else like in your lesson. If you got it automated with your lesson planner, this would simply override. So let me show you what happens when, who is it, Danielle? Let's see, Danielle got electronics, okay? Let's say Danielle also is doing a lot of talking, okay? But also Danielle does, she's not. And how many times did I say? 4 times? Let's see. Yeah, so the 4th time, it should trigger something. So Danielle, once again, is talking too much in class, and now we see that Danielle's experiencing some difficulty with class norms. Select an appropriate corrective action from the list below, and pick one, or you could just have it pick one randomly. Kind of a fun activity in class, actually. And it looks like she gets one more chance. Lucky, very lucky. Okay, so now if I double click on her, notice that it recorded everything, all 4 for violations, and the fact that a intervention was recorded as well. So at some point, you might want to go and take a look at how your class is doing. So you could track by looking at the entire class, and you'll see that Danielle got 1 cell, 2 talks, 1 clean, and 4 others. I don't remember doing that, but earlier, and it might have been a 4-pointer, but I'll have to look at that, see what happened. But anyway, and if you're using a point system, it could track your points as well here. So, anything interesting thing about the point system is you could show them right on their pictures. Okay, so there's their pictures right there, and let's say Danielle gets a gold star. Of course, I didn't set it to give any points, so back in co-created norms, if you want to use the point system, then you have to say, all right, they're going to get 1 point for every gold star. So I must have had an other somewhere that was 4 points earlier on her before I changed this. So I'll have to look into that. So that, in a nutshell, is your co-created norms. If you can look at a whole class, how about compare classes? And another interesting thing about our norms is I think I added tardy, and I know that tardy and absent is not official on this program, but if you choose absent, so Carla is absent, that means the computer won't pick her. And also she won't score any participation points for this day. If she comes in a little bit later, then I could change it to tardy that quick, and it would add up how tardy she is. Now this is outside of the class bell schedule, so you'll have to decide how many minutes that is, and you can even assign how many points she would lose for a tardy. So that, in a nutshell, is how class norms works. Forgot to mention, you ding somebody and then I dinged the wrong person. I can just undo that last tracking. Okay, thank you for watching.